One of the most recognisable and beloved amongst all smaller falcon species, especially when regarding falconry, the Merlin is a swift and dynamic hunter, whom despite its small size, can be just as tenacious as larger falcons. Here in Britain, there are 4 recognised falcon species that are either resident or migrant visitors to this island. Most notable is, of course, the peregrine falcon, the largest and most powerful falcon breeding in the UK and most of Europe, infamous for being the fastest animal in the world when it enters its trademark dive or stoop. Perhaps the most commonly encountered in the UK and most of Europe, however, is the common kestrel, a considerably smaller and more elegant falcon that is best recognised for its unique hovering flight behaviour, which it uses to scan the ground to hunt for small prey, particularly in habitats associated with agriculture. Seeing a relatively small raptor, roughly the size of a pigeon, hovering in this position is a giveaway that this is indeed a kestrel. Then there is the hobby, which is similar in size to, if not marginally smaller than the kestrel, but has coloration somewhat more like that of the peregrine, except for its distinctive streaked and then reddish underparts. This rapid-flying and very long-winged little falcon is a hunter of airborne prey, particularly small birds and large insects, notably dragonflies, which it will actually consume on the wing. A migratory species, the hobby breeds in Britain and Europe during the summer and migrates south to Africa during the winter. These 3 falcon species, along with the Merlin itself, are natively established to the UK and the most frequently seen, but every now and again, individuals belonging to other species of falcons occasionally turn up. For instance, on very rare occasions, gerfalcons have been recorded visiting the UK, but only in very tiny numbers. These are on average the largest falcons in the world and are usually associated living in the Arctic Circle. The Merlin is in fact the smallest falcon species and also the smallest of all birds of prey present in Britain and Europe. Just like the majority of other bird of prey species, the females, including this individual, are larger than the males. Mature females weigh typically around 7 to 8 ounces, or 198 to 230 grams, and are around 13 inches or 33 centimeters long from beak to tail, which is roughly the same size as a missel thrush, the largest species of its kind native to Britain and Europe. Male merlins, however, known in falconry as jacks, are around 24 centimeters long, or around 9.5 inches from beak to tail, and weigh around 5.8 ounces, or 165 grams, which is about the same size as a Eurasian blackbird, a very commonly seen species here in Britain and Europe, which by falcon standards is pretty tiny, but not the smallest falcon species in the world, however, a title which belongs to the tiniest of the falconets. Much like the kestrel, and somewhat unlike the hobby and peregrine, male and female merlins in this country can be told apart from their coloration as well as their size, with females having a relatively plain brown or greyish coloration, and the smaller males having a striking bluish dorsal side and a more rufous or orangey-brown underside, at least in the case of the fully mature birds, with juveniles in their first year being comparatively more dull in appearance. A species that can sometimes be confused with the merlin is the Eurasian sparrowhawk, which from a distance can appear to have a similar uniform, and can adopt similar flight patterns, especially in terms of the wing beat rhythm, for it itself is an agile flyer with dashing manoeuvres used to catch smaller birds. Male sparrowhawks, or muskets as they are known in falconry, are a likely bird to be confused with merlins in this context, for some of the smallest of them can be almost as tiny as some merlins. Sparrowhawks, however, have comparatively longer tail feathers and broader, more rounded wings, adapted for hunting in more enclosed woodland habitats or even in people's gardens, a location where merlins are very unlikely to be observed, especially here in Britain. Merlins have comparatively much more pointed wings than the sparrowhawk does, though their primaries or leading wing feathers don't seem to be as long and as pronounced as other falcons, such as hobbies or peregrines for example, and they don't hover like kestrels do. Also, unlike the sparrowhawk, merlins are most frequently observed hunting and flying in open spaces, often hunting in habitats such as moorland, heathland and open farmland, and very rarely observed in woodland habitats or parkland, at least here in the UK. Merlins are pretty widespread for a small falcon, and they are found right across both the Americas and Eurasia, with 3 subspecies recognised to live in North America and Canada, and 6 subspecies in Eurasia. One of the American subspecies of Merlin present on the continent is known as the tiger Merlin, which is found across Canada and the northernmost part of the United States east of the Rocky Mountains, except for the Great Plains. It is, however, a migratory subspecies of Merlin, often wintering further south in the US as well as into Central and South America, including the Caribbean. The second subspecies, which inhabits the Great Plains from Alberta to Wyoming, is the prairie or Richardson's Merlin, which is a mostly sedentary bird. This subspecies is on average the palest in coloration, and is also on average the largest subspecies of Merlin on the continent. The third and perhaps most visually distinctive of all Merlin subspecies on the continent is the black or coastal forest Merlin, which is found across the Pacific coast of North America, from southern Alaska to the northern Washington state. As its name suggests, this particular subspecies has a very dark plumage coloration, more so than perhaps any other Merlin subspecies, due to the presence of a high amount of melanin pigmentation. While these 3 subspecies of Merlin are found across the Americas, up to 6 recognised subspecies are found across Eurasia, even as far south as North Africa. Probably the best known, of course, is the subspecies found across most of Europe and of course the UK, as well as being observed throughout Scandinavia and into central Siberia. Living further east into the Asian steppes between the Aral Sea and Altai Mountains is the pallid Merlin, which, alongside the American prairie Merlin, has a considerably paler appearance compared to other subspecies. Much like the aforementioned peregrine, sparrowhawk and hobby, Merlins are predominantly bird hunters, though on occasion they have been known to hunt small mammals and large insects. As a raptor built to hunt small avian quarry, Merlins have especially long toes for their body size, almost like a miniature peregrine, which are perfectly adapted for grasping and snatching small avian quarry, particularly when chasing it in mid-air, as is the case for this particular species of falcon. This is a noticeable difference compared to other falcons such as the common and American kestrels, which in comparison have shorter, stouter feet and toes, better adapted for hunting more mammalian quarry, though they too occasionally hunt birds and insects. Like all other falcon species, Merlins also possess a tomial tooth, a pointed appendage on the upper mandible of their beak just behind the hook, which they use to bite through the necks of their prey with the intent to dispatch their quarry as quickly as possible. This adaptation amongst falcons, including the Merlin, is effective in reducing a struggle with prey which could lead to injury, and enables them to subdue prey as big or even bigger than themselves. In flight, Merlins have relatively short but streamlined pointed wings, and a relatively long tail, though not quite as long as that of a kestrel's. For a bird of their size, Merlins are surprisingly compact and muscular little birds, which provides them with a great deal of the power and acceleration they need when chasing prey in level flight, and once they are on the wing, they are best described as dashing, with rapid wing beats powering them forwards. The flight of a Merlin is comparatively less buoyant compared to kestrels, appearing to generate much more thrust than lift when in flight. The streamlined plumage and pointed wings of Merlins make them especially aerodynamic, as is the case with almost all other falcon species, which further assists them in gaining speed when chasing prey. Their small size combined with their long tail feathers also makes them especially agile, enabling them to make very tight and rapid turns in mid-flight, almost like that of a small exhibitor or true hawk. Merlins may not be as infamous for their speed in comparison to larger falcons, but they are indeed rapid birds on the wing, able to reach 30 to 40 miles per hour in level flight, with one individual recorded flying at up to 70 miles per hour. And once these falcons are flying at optimal levels of fitness, their stamina in level flight pursuits can give larger birds a run for their money. When hunting aerial prey, Merlins deploy a variety of airborne attack strategies. They often approach prey by flying fast and low, sometimes less than a metre above the ground, with the intention to both build speed and take prey by surprise. They capture most of their prey while still on the wing, and are best known for tail-chasing smaller birds in a relentless pursuit, often engaging in ringing flights, where they follow birds such as skylarks, for example, high into the air, in a test of speed and stamina. These falcons will mirror their prey's every move. Whether the prey is climbing into the sky or dropping to the ground, the Merlin is unlikely to want to give up its pursuit. The majority of the Merlin's diet consists of birds that are smaller than itself. For example, here in the UK, most Merlins predate songbirds such as pipits, larks and wagtails, birds less than half of its own weight. Sometimes, however, they will chase flocks of larger songbirds such as starlings or redwings, a type of thrush, and in some cases, especially when referring to the larger subspecies of Merlin from North America, they will even tackle birds larger than themselves, including doves and pigeons, which relates to a commonly used, albeit slightly inaccurate name used to describe this falcon, the pigeon hawk. Merlins have had a long history associated with falconry, particularly when regarding the Eurasian subspecies of this bird. In medieval times, the Merlin was commonly referred to as the ladies' falcon, as they were the most frequent raptor flown by women at the time, especially royalty, with notable historical names including Catherine the Great and even Mary Queen of Scots, known to have flown Merlins. In Britain and Europe, Merlins have long been used to hunt small birds, particularly larks, and in North America, the Merlin has been used especially recently to hunt a variety of non-native invasive species of birds, including starlings, pigeons and sparrows, which of course they have proven to be especially good at. Despite how exciting and beautiful they are, however, Merlins, along with other very small species of raptors, are not recommended for beginners in falconry for numerous reasons, most notably because their small size makes weight management especially challenging. Even so, once these birds are in the hands of an experienced and dedicated falconer, and they are flying at their absolute peak, whether to the lure or to wild game, they can prove especially exciting raptors to watch, and alongside a few other small raptors, particularly other small falcons and exhibitors, are among the most beloved of the microraptors. The Merlin may be small, but its sheer agility, speed, endurance and also tenacity makes it an equally effective hunter as other larger raptors in its own respect, which along with its beautiful coloration makes it one of the most impressive of the smaller falcons.